This is Keith Atherton, a Microsoft MVP, a Microsoft certified trainer, a solution architect, a LinkedIn learning instructor, and more. But the thing that Keith really cares about is helping other people reach their full potential. So that's exactly what we talk about. The mindset shift that you need to start achieving more, to get that promotion you always wanted, or make more money. This was a super special conversation that you don't want to miss. Let's go. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin Lickfelt, the host of the Citizen Developer channel. And today I'm joined by Keith Atherton. Keith, thank you so much for being here. You are the first, it just kind of shook out this way. I reached out to lots of previous guests. You are the first returning guest to the Power Talks podcast at this point. So you are, yeah, that's right. You are the first one. You're the real MVP here. But I wanted to talk this morning. I think we have a lot we could talk about, but I wanted to talk about the saying or the mantra about reaching your full potential. This is something that I had kind of learned through sports growing up. I was just big into sports and playing sports, and I had a coach who taught me this idea of reaching your full potential in your sport as a student or a high schooler, as a man, as a brother, as a husband, whatever that may be. What does that kind of mean to you, and where did you come into this concept of reaching your full potential?
Yeah, it's great to be back. Thanks, Griffin. Appreciate the warm welcome, and love the show. So this is awesome. I think the reaching the full potential, it's kind of cropped up in life for me several times. But like yourself, when I was maybe back in high school doing a few more sports, I used to play soccer for the school. I did some martial arts and some other things on the side as well. Some things that I realized when I took them a bit more seriously or had the right coaching, the right mentorship, was like, oh, if I put the extra time in, if I work harder, if I stay behind afterwards practicing free kicks or penalties, it was something where you could see the skill level and the confidence going up. And I think just over the years, it's something that's kind of returned again and again. And the same whether it's been at work or a side hobby or a side hustle. Like the more I'm putting in, the more I'm getting out of it as well. The more fulfilling it feels as well. So yeah, one of the key ones for me was really a lot of my career. I've enjoyed being a software developer for most of it. Sometimes team leading, sometimes architecture. But I've always kind of done extra things on the side, whether it be related to the job or not. Sometimes creative things, painting, playing the guitar, being in bands. And I think it was only a few years ago, really maybe 4 years ago or so, that I thought, I wonder if I channeled more of that energy into my day job, my career. And then I started to do things like get involved with the community and go to tech meetups, taking Microsoft certifications, exams to try and upskill and keep my skills current and up to date as well. And it's only when I started to do those things that I didn't do it to get a new job or to get a promotion, but I could feel those changes coming as the result of having that mindset and of maybe identifying as someone who wants to further themselves and work harder and put a bit extra in. So it kind of naturally came about, but maybe that's a lesson as well.
Yeah. Another coachism, or like a saying coaches I feel like say, or at least that I had heard, is this: how you do one thing is how you do everything. I don't know if you've ever heard of something like that, but it was like basically this idea. Let me apply it to a high school athlete. Let me apply it to that, so a teenage kid. It was like, okay, if I slack off on my homework and cheat on a test, then that means I'm going to slack in my workouts, or not be as good of an American football player. That's my sport. American football player, as good of a player as I could be, because how I do one thing, how I handle myself in school is how I'll handle myself at practice or in a game. And so that same kind of concept. And I think that, like, yeah, to break down this reaching your full potential even more, like I think about, like, this isn't to say that like everybody, has it. One thing I loved about this saying is that the full potential could be different for everybody. And it's not about my potential being higher than anybody else's or their potential being higher than mine. It's a matter of like, how close are we reaching that? How close are we pushing to that full potential in all areas of our life? So how am I pushing to get the best grades or be the best student? How am I pushing to be the best solution architect? How am I pushing to be the best football or soccer player or football player or whatever, right? Like, how am I pushing to constantly do that in all areas? And that was something that, at least for me, was like groundbreaking. Of just like, okay, yeah, how I do one thing is how I do everything, and not to yap for 10 straight minutes, but like, I think that, and maybe most people could relate in that sometimes, whether it's big steps in a career or a new job or I don't know, right? Every kid, when they play sports, their goal is to be a professional. So whether it's to become a professional athlete or whatever, like, it takes a lot of hard work, but it takes a little luck every once. It takes knowing the right person. It takes not getting injured. It takes, you know, um, getting on a, something maybe you weren't overqualified for, but then you picked it up quick because of somebody. Like, sometimes it takes a little bit of luck, and I found that if you're not like pushing to reach your full potential, then you're gonna miss that opportunity. Like,
Totally.
everybody kind of gets those up. What are your thoughts? Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think putting in that hard work and kind of making your own luck to an extent, or putting yourself in those places where if you're pushing and working hard. So for me, back to the career example, I started to take some certifications to skill up for my own learning. I then saw someone do a really cool tech presentation, and it never occurred to me to try one. And I thought, I dared myself. I'm like, oh, can I do one of those? Can I try that? I speak with customers, I speak with co-workers. I love the people side of things. I sometimes see myself as a people person who can do the tech. I don't kind of see it the other way around. And so I kind of dared myself to try one. I enjoyed it. It seemed to go really well, and I kind of built on it a bit more over the years. And so I realized that by doing those things, I was pushing myself and had this growth mindset, this continuous learning, continuous growth. But by doing them, it was also put me in those places where opportunities would come as well. And as you say, being on your, giving it your best, and working really hard to the best extent that you can. And also knowing yourself as well, knowing, well, I'm particularly strong with this. I think I'm good at that. Maybe not so much on that. Maybe I could work on it, or I don't enjoy that so much. That's maybe I'm a bit weaker on that part. But then by doing those things, I do more speaking, and then meeting people who also do speaking, like, oh, I run a user group too. Do you want to help in ours? Well, that might not have come along if I wasn't in the zone doing this thing. So I think, yeah, that was one part of, you know, being there and then being aware of the opportunities, and or going to the event, and then the next year you're actually presenting at the event. You can sometimes see this progression. Sometimes if you get the look as well of, oh, I saw you one last year, there's only a handful of people, but the right person was there to see you, like a scout for a football team, right? If the scouts are there and you're performing well, that's your bit of luck, but you've got to be performing well to then get spotted or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry,
No,
go
no,
ahead,
no, go for it.
continue.
No, go for it.
Okay,
This
I
is
was
great.
gonna say, so I grew up in Indiana, which is in the Midwest, which generally a lot of people, at least in the United States, are like, the best high school football is in like Texas, California, and Florida. But maybe I'm biased. I think there's some really good high school sports in the Midwest and in Indiana. And I went to a pretty big school. I had like 500 or so in my grade, in my class. So about 2,000 kids in our ninth through 12th grade. And pretty big team. And we had a pretty good team. We were a pretty intense team. We had the opportunity to win a state championship. So we were the best team in the state of Indiana, at our level, at our division. And I can remember a pregame speech from our coach, who's kind of the same guy who taught me this. He was like, okay, in the last year, in the last 365 days, you guys have done 380 some workouts or something. So like more than one workout a day. So
Wow.
because from all the 2 a days and 3 a days we did all summer, and working out before school, after school, and I even had, I don't know how American this is. I even had a weightlifting class as one of my classes. So like I would work out during the school day as well. So it's like, all right, you guys have done 380 some workouts in 365 days. You guys are more than prepared to go out there and win this game, right? So it's like heck of a speech, got to give it to him. But it was that concept, that same principle was like I needed every last little bit of one of those workouts to become the best football player I could, so that I could go and I'm very blessed. I was able to go and play college football at the university level in order to get my foot in the door, to get to find the right scout, to become just good enough player to get on this team. And then I ended up going to school there, and through that ended up through the people I knew ended up finding about this industry. And it just so happened that like if I wouldn't have done all of those workouts, I wouldn't have gotten into the school to play football, which means I wouldn't have met the people I met to start my career when I did in this career. You know what I mean? It's just like how you
Yeah,
can like almost backtrack it.
yeah,
And so just to encourage anybody out there who's listening of like, well, how will this help me? How will all this extra effort serve me? Because that can be really unmotivating to want to do extra work for not necessarily seeing that. Like, I don't know, but it will.
that's great.
That's
No,
what
I
I
love
can
that.
say.
I think it's great. It's a lot of that can be down to discipline. Like you've showed up for those workouts, you've gave it your best, you've not sort of plateaued or stagnated. Like okay, what's the next level up if you're doing a bench press or if you're doing whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm I know my RP is this. I want to aim for more. I'm doing my fives or whatever you do. Whatever your workout is. You're aiming for the next level, next level, next level. So I think that kind of mindset, the growth mindset, is it's covered really well by a book I read recently, Atomic Habits. And it was really good about, as you say, if you're doing well at work, it may translate to home or tech community, to sport, to any part of your life because you're giving it your best. You're working hard, aiming for ways where you've got those regular practice routines, the regular habits, or you're upskilling with other exams of other ways to kind of further the knowledge. And because you're using that mindset, it's likely going to translate elsewhere in life. And I think it comes back to something like you identify as someone who works hard and achieves well, rather
Yeah.
than, oh, for this one thing I'll work really hard, but I'll just fob off all these other things. I can't be bothered. It's more the mindset. No, I'm going to work hard pretty much everything I do.
Yeah.
And that's where you can achieve high in those different areas.
Let's hammer on that real quick. What is like, because I also, this idea of a growth mindset, very similar to what we're talking about. Like, how does trying to think, okay, how do we apply this more to the Power Platform, Microsoft Dynamics, being a consultant or an architect, growing our careers? Like, what has been the importance to you in having a growth mindset, maybe more in your, more recent day to day, as we're pushing and growing as in the Power Platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's so many ways where I see an opportunity to try and improve, and I know many of us will be doing this, try and improve the way I do things. So when I kind of progress from developer to an architect in title, I mean, they're quite interchangeable for me in the role to some extent. Some different roles, you might wear many hats, say for a smaller company, right? You might be doing the dev and the architecture. Some you might have big teams and you've got specialized roles. So for me, it applies to both, but when I became an architect, I was then aware of that I kind of want to have a good understanding of different parts of the platform, the Power Platform, as well as the big overlap with Dynamics, as well as maybe other parts of the Microsoft ecosystem, or sometimes even other cloud systems like AWS or GCP. If I've got some understanding and some, a potential customer comes up and says, well, which one of these should I pick? Or we've got this, but how about for the back end? I've got options here. Which one should we use? I realized that I wanted to keep my knowledge up to date and current. So one of the things with that is say Microsoft certifications, keeping them active, learning from the from the community or from when Microsoft come up with some new wave releases, and it's like, well, it's going to be of my interest to keep this up to date in case one of these new features is a good fit for a customer if I'm doing pre-sales or trying to find out how I can help them. And if I've say got 2-3 year out of date knowledge, I might not be picking the easiest or the best approach, just what I remembered from last time. So some things I think are little reminders for me of it's now your job to try and keep up to date and as current as you can. You can't know it all, you won't be expert with it all, but just knowing that, oh, this rings a bell, let me just do a deep dive and refresh my memory on this. This might be a good fit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of become part of my identity in a way as well, part of my role.
If you are liking the conversation, be sure to let me know by liking the video and commenting down below what it is specifically you are getting out of it. And if you are interested in learning more about the Microsoft Power Platform, you're going to want to click on the first link down in the description down below to get access to a beginner's Power Platform guide led by me. This is a completely free, self-paced course that has hand-picked knowledge, everything that you need to know to be able to go and get your first Microsoft certification as soon as possible. The reality is not a lot of people can say they love what they do, and I feel very blessed to be able to say that I enjoy what I do for work as a Microsoft consultant. And if you want to start that journey alongside me today, be sure to follow and click on the first link down in the description down below. Now let's get back to the conversation.
How has also just thinking about growing and learning, how has being, whether it's a Microsoft certified trainer, I know you definitely have had a big LinkedIn learning instructor presence as well. Like you are, a teacher in a lot of ways. How has, like, whether somebody has kind of some more of a formal role like that, or they're just a mentor of somebody, and a big brother, and they want to do that. Like, how do you approach helping others as well have that mindset shift or reach their full potential?
Yeah, I do love helping others, and I think that's why I've done some of the training, the teaching, uh, and things like that. Like say the LinkedIn Learning, being a Microsoft certified trainer is really good too. And I think if I think back, even go back to school again, right? We're both going back to like these formative years when we've had coaching and mentoring from others, whether it be at sport or whether it be just academic studies. And for me, I had a really great uh, maths teacher when I was at high school, and I remembered that his knowledge and the way he would teach me would be quite inspiring to me. So I'd always be curious to learn more, and he piqued the interest of the way he taught me. He's really knowledgeable. He's like you could almost ask him anything, and just the way he taught was quite engaging. And I had some other teachers along the way. So at college, for me, or university rather for me, I had a physics. One of my physics teachers, physics was my degree subject when I was there, and one of them he was just like quite entertaining, quite humorous. Had a bit of a bit of a cheeky sense of humor sometimes, but it kept it more interesting from what would sometimes otherwise be quite a dry technical subject. And I thought that's kind of fun, and some of those lessons are still memorable to me as well. And I've had that with technical trainers over the years, and it's something that I've aspired to do. Of like, oh, you get to help people and have fun and be this big kind of knowledge expert that people might look up to or want to learn from. And so I think that's just kind of fueled it, as well as seeing others grow. And that can be another thing on the motivation for others of they might be coming from a different angle or learn in different ways. So for me, when I was younger, I remember trying to read lots of blogs, and reading's fine, but it's not my favorite thing. But watching videos and things on YouTube, I would love if they'd be more visual, more engaging. I'm quite a visual person, and that just clicks. It connects better with me. So I realised that there's some people who love to read and write more. Some are more visual with videos, and so that's another thing I've tried to tailor with the different presenting and teaching and training that I've done. Is like, oh, I realize these different audiences have a different way of absorbing this, or they might want to be more hands-on, and some other people I'm dealing with might want to do the reading learning, like reading the manual first kind of thing. So that's another thing I've tried to explore of what works best for certain people as well.
Yeah. I think I completely agree with that. I don't know, maybe I don't necessarily know why either, but I definitely would rather watch a YouTube video on times two speed than try to read something or read a blog. Like, I don't know, I just think it's so awesome being able to watch and see something, and even if it's not even like a tutorial where they're showing the screen, but just like them explaining it, just sitting down and listening to and watching that, I feel, at least for me, and it's definitely like a big reason, and I'm sure you can attest to this, as to why I decided to start sharing what I was learning, is like, man, I'm learning this stuff. I don't feel like I'm finding a video out there that answers this question. Let's make my own video. And that's something that's super special, I think, about we were talking before we even started recording, just about the Power Platform and Microsoft Dynamics community, is just how like, I don't know what the word is, like comforting or like inviting, that's the word I'm looking for, like how inviting the community is to people learning. I think it's so unique, it's so special. I can't help but feel like other industries or other careers are missing out.
Yeah.
What's just about teaching and stuff, what's maybe more of a heartwarming question, what's been something that's been super rewarding to you, that whether it's an impact you were able to make on somebody, or something that they said to you, or what's been something that's been super rewarding in your time of training and teaching other people?
Well, about 2 hours ago, one of my team members of my team, he'd started with the organization fairly recently. And as we know, starting a new job can be quite full on, lots to learn, or meeting new people, lots of processes. It can be overwhelming for quite a few people in many different ways. We all take it differently, of course, as well. And this person gave me really nice feedback this morning, which was really, really nice. They were looking for a bit of help with something. I was able to hopefully be approachable, give them some good advice, and offer to be there to support them. And they were very positive and grateful for the support. And it was nice to get that feedback, to know that it was, well, one, it's appreciated, but two, it was effective. Like, it is helping them. It's not just nice positive words and like, oh, that's a nice confidence boost. It was like, oh no, it's helped me with this. Well, I didn't know about that otherwise, so thanks so much, really appreciate it. And I'm like, great, it feels like it's going well, I did that right. So that was really nice, it was reassuring. So yeah,
Yeah,
there we go, today. You can't get fresher than that, fresh from the
that's
oven.
awesome. Yeah. Have you ever been in a scenario? What's your experience with like mentorship? So more than just like training and being an MVP or a LinkedIn Learning instructor. Like, have you ever had an experience where it was more personal than that, where it was like, hey, I'm gonna be the mentor, or you're gonna be the mentee, and I'm gonna mentor you, whatever that may be. I felt very fortunate in that I had that experience recently, really over the last several years, and especially when I was starting. Like, I was able to be given a mentor who's kind of somebody about 3 years into like even more than that potentially. But like somebody with at least 3 years of experience is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. That maybe we would get along on a personality basis, where it was like, hey, I'm gonna be your mentor. You're gonna be my mentee. We're gonna meet at least once every 2 weeks and just talk about how we can help you to continue to grow. Have you had any sort of experience with something more along those lines?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, so that last few years, again, since the upskilling and maybe becoming a bit more current with my skill set, and a bit more noticeable in the community, being a bit more active and contributing, I did have a few people who reached out to me, asking if mentorship was something I'd be interested in. So yeah, I think I've got a handful of people, and like you mentioned there, it's like once a month or once every 2 weeks. I meet up with these people. We get our one-to-one time, and it's tailored just for them. And the cliche is true, that I'm learning just as much from them as they are from me. Me as the mentor, them as the mentee. And then a few months ago as well, I was lucky enough to become one of the co-leads of the Microsoft's Women in Power Platform mentorship program, which is, they are accepting mentors, male and female, but the mentees are all female. And it's to try and help, women in the community and females kind of get ahead and learn more, and find out how they can contribute more. And it's something that I was a mentor in the last cohort, really loved being part of it. And this time round, I'm one of the co-leads with the lovely Sharon Smith, who's a good friend of mine, who is kind of doing lots of great work with the leading of that and working on her own mentoring hub program as well. So yeah, I've kind of been part of the program, still am. I've done some mentoring through the program kind of in an official capacity as well as some personal ones. And likewise, I've kind of been mentee on other programs. So some others I'll mention, which is Mark and Meg Smith have a really great 90-day mentoring challenge, which honestly I think was absolutely amazing. It really pushed me. You network with others. It's built its own community, and it's the soft and essential skills. It's your technical skills, the background of Dynamics and Power Platform, even looking into things like MVP awards and the community and how to get involved. It's absolutely brilliant. And I have a few mentors myself as well, again, on the personal one-to-one basis, people I reached out to or worked with who are just like, again, a few years ahead or a few levels above. I'm like, I could learn so much. And some gratefully spend their time with me every month, and we have catch ups. So when we can, they're often busy, like ourselves, where we travel to events, we speak at events, we have our own things going on. Sometimes we'll miss a month, we'll make a month, we'll tweak the day, but we make it work. So yeah, there's a lot of value in mentorship, in my opinion.
Yeah, I I agree because it gave me somebody where it was like a safe space to ask my dumb questions.
That's great. I love
Like
that. Yeah.
why why isn't this working? How do I do this? How do I why what's wrong with my flow here? My Power Automate flow. Why is this not working? So it gave me an opportunity to ask my dumb questions like that, but also it gave me like for me, I got into the industry still as a young professional. I subscribe to that group and talk about it all the time. I don't mind that. But like even just like asking questions about like I don't know how the industry works or how a Microsoft partner's business works. Like what does it mean that our for our business to be good? What's it mean for our business to be bad? What's it mean for leadership to be saying this versus saying this? What's it mean for you know the industry as a whole. Microsoft had layoffs. Like, what's that mean for us? Like, just even somebody
Mhm.
somewhere like where I can even ask questions like that as I'm learning about just like the world, more
Yeah.
than
They're
just
great questions, actually.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
the Power Automate syntax or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
so like it just gave me an opportunity to ask those questions as well, and just have somebody. I'm very appreciative of, I guess this person I have in mind that I'm talking about as well to kind of be real with me as well, not sugarcoat things or only give me the politically correct answers, or, oh, I'm not
Okay.
supposed to say this, but like, whatever. Like, just keeping it real with me, and doing that because yeah, there's a matter of like, I don't know what you would call it, like, I guess I think of the words like growing up. Like there's a
Mm.
part of like, growing up and learning all of that stuff that you maybe don't pick up on LinkedIn or whatever, right? Like people aren't
Yeah.
posting about this stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's things that you also get to learn.
I,
So
I
it's
love that,
definitely
actually.
been super special.
Yeah. Sorry to cut in. No, I was going to say I totally agree. And yeah, one of my mentors was someone who I asked early on some of those real questions, if you like, as well. Those ones where and it's someone who's a friend as well, so we can be quite frank with each other. We don't need to hold back.
Yeah.
We're all we're both grown ups. We can ask these questions, and as you say, sometimes it's like, has anyone asked this one before, or the layoff one. So years ago, when I started to try and upskill my make my tech skills current, I'd used some maybe more legacy tech for quite a few years, and I could feel that maybe I was doing same again when I changed jobs as well. And it was maybe tech where the market was dwindling a bit more. It was more on prem. It was older. There was some legacy things that I loved using, but I realized the world had moved on to cloud and some other things. These days it's AI, Gen AI, and lots of other things. Again, I was feeling that I was getting lost behind because it was my career's up to me. I wasn't keeping my skills current, And then I was starting to learn about Azure and seeing Microsoft exams. I'd never taken one before. I'd heard what they were. And so I asked a friend of mine who was a bit of a mentor at the time. We formalized it a bit more in the last couple of years, into, like regular catch ups. Then it was ad hoc. I'm like, Microsoft exams, it's, I can see the money you pay to take an exam. Like, is it worth it? And Microsoft Azure, I'm like, I noticed you do a lot with this. Like, I'm totally new. I've not used any of that. Is it worth me spending time looking into this? And he was just frank each time with the exams. Says, well, if you want to find a new job, it will differentiate you. Good point. Yeah, okay. Should I learn Azure? Why not AWS? Why not this? Why not that? Do you think it'll be around in the next few years? I was asking questions like this with Azure. I'm like, if I'm going to take a load of exams and then they drop it in a couple of years, is that wasted time? Is that they make billions? Right, it's going to be around. You'll be fine. All right, okay, yeah, all right. So these kind of these real chats made me realize, oh yeah, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, I think there's probably longevity with it. I'll stick with it. I'll choose that path, and those things help me, kind of course correct my path at the time, I think.
Yeah. This I agree. And yeah, like kind of those more direction based questions for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Um, maybe a switch up in topic, but it's definitely still in the same area as we talk about like mindset, and here's another, I guess, like coachism. Or I don't know, maybe it's like something your grandpa would tell you, your grandfather, like do what you love and good things will come. I always love to ask guests, like when I'm like before when I'm kind of interviewing them before we record, like what's a quote or a sentiment that they heard and they believe in or don't believe in anymore. And you shared this one. Um, why do you hold this so dearly? And it's such a philosophy you believe in, and how it's helped guide your career decisions.
Yeah, I think that one probably came from my parents when I was young initially, which is like, if you're going to work hard, again, we're coming back to kind of making your own luck or your own opportunities, or when the opportunity comes, whether that be as an athlete, an architect, a developer, whatever line of life or work it might be in, you're going to be well placed at that time to then take that opportunity. And how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself achieving high, being when I was younger and at school, it's like, well, if you work hard and you're going to get, you work hard to get the best grades you can, you might be able to go for a job that you enjoy more. And it's something that's just bring it back to basics like that of like, well, if you don't, achieve the way you want to achieve, you might have limited options. It might not be options that give you, either the kind of the lifestyle that you might want, or the working hours you might want, or the income that you might want. But if you work hard, you might have a bit more freedom on those choices. So that was enough to kind of motivate me to realize, well, no matter what I'm doing, back to what we talked about before, is pretty much most things giving it my best shot. And then sometimes that can be, uh, you know, those good things have kind of come out of that. Again, I do a bit of speaking, I do a bit more. Luckily enough, I've been picked to speak at a few events this year, like the Power Platform Community Conference in Vegas in October. I'll be speaking there. It's something where a few years ago I went as an attendee not knowing anyone. Then the year after, I go back and speak for the first time. That was last year. And this time I've got two sessions, one with a buddy of mine, Charlie, and one as a solo one. And I'm like, well, if I wasn't pushing and working hard, those good things may not have come. I didn't nag the organizers to give me a speaking slot. I didn't, speak to the right people or do things any other way other than just trying hard and being in the right place. And that's a good thing I didn't expect, but has come my way because of this. So, and I'm all for it. I love that I've got this opportunity to go there and again teach and help others. How to do things with Power Apps and other things that's going to be useful for them. So I think just that mindset of, if you're doing what you love, let's say LinkedIn Learning and some other training ones, opportunities I've done, some of them have not actually paid monetarily in a particularly high way, Some are okay, some have, some haven't. But I've enjoyed doing it anyway. I've just, so some things that will come of it will be good, maybe other ways of using the training skills or as a mentor, but not necessarily that I've done it to chase some money. I've done it because I wanted to do it and worked hard. And the other good things might be an offer of training, or another way of using those skills in a different way that I'd not planned, but putting that out there is meant things have come back to me. So yeah, I see this come back time and time again, working hard and these different kind of rewards coming in, and it just seems to work well.
Yeah. Yeah. Not I agree. And just like doing there's something really special about doing, I mean, at the end of the day, it is work, so I don't want to, I guess, I'm sure I can speak for both of us. We spend a lot of time in the Power Platform and thinking about the Power Platform and talking about the Power Platform. And we do enjoy it, but it is also work at the same time too. I enjoy my time away from the Power Platform, I'm sure just as much as you. But to play, I guess, devil's advocate, or to the opposite side of this, is like, I think that there can be this idea that I just need to find my passion, or what I love to do, and like that's what I do. I think that there's a balance that needs to be played of like finding something that you enjoy, that you're good at, and that you can monetize in some way to at least support yourself. Like
Totally.
there's I I I love entrepreneurship, and there's some entrepreneur influencers that I like to follow or watch, and they talk, it's, at least in America, like over 50% of businesses fail within the first 3 years or something like that. And it's like, it's because people, they love food, or I don't know, they love books, or they love whatever. And so they're like, okay, this is my passion. Let me open up a bookstore or open up a restaurant, or, whatever, because I love doing this. And not trying to shoot anybody's dream down, or anything like that. But it's like, okay, but also, if this is something you love, like, is it something that, one, you're good at, like, if you can't cook food, but you love cooking food, and you open a restaurant, no one's gonna eat at your restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, is it something that you're good at, or something that you can learn? And then also, is there, not that you need to become rich, but like, it's something, at least some kind of way to monetize this, to make it worth your while and help support yourself, worth your time,
Yeah, yeah.
um
I
that's
think that's
something
really
like
good. Yeah.
please
Oh,
go.
sorry to jump in, but
No, please.
I was going to say, I think you hit the nail on the head where there was a book I recommended for a friend recently, a book that I return to every few years called Don't Read This Book. That's ridiculous, right? I mean, great, but ridiculous name, because I want people to read it. It's really good. And it's a bit like you were saying there, where if you want to find the passion, let's say you're in a decision point in your life. Let's say if you're between jobs, you're looking for something next, you can either get the same again, but you might use it as an opportunity to say, maybe something I might love more, or I feel like a pivot right now. What would that be? And this book has got some great ways of, and there are other good books too, where they say, what do you love doing and what you're good at, and then try and combine them. So you're cognizant of both things. And sometimes you might list a few things, and it might be that when you've listed these things, I'll make one up, right. Let's say I like Power Apps. I'm pretty strong with them. Say specifically Canvas apps. I love helping people, training and teaching. Hey, maybe I could be a Power Apps trainer. It's kind of simplified, but a way of combining those things. And I think just as you explained it there was great, because when I was younger, so this is coming back to giving a lot of things your all. I was maybe 24, and I'd been in a few bands over the years as a side thing outside of the tech job. I was a pretty good guitar player at one point. I was playing every day, and I even started to teach as a
Acoustic
side.
or electric? Sorry, gotta ask.
No, no, no,
What are we
no.
talking
It's
here?
great. I've actually got both in the room. I've got one of each, but
Okay.
electric comes first for me. It's always been my
Okay.
favorite. I've always been into rock and metal. That's
Cool.
been my background. So I listen to loads of stuff. It'll be synthwave, jazz, classical, like all sorts. Now the great thing
Cool.
with, so for me it was when I was a teacher as well. I was teaching when I was 24, just outside of hours in the evenings, bit of extra holiday money, whatever. It wasn't much, but I had a handful of students. I enjoyed it because it's something I enjoyed creatively, and it would push me as well because like I got some guy who was a bit older. He's into like 50s rock and roll music. Like never really played that. I've got to learn it now to keep up with this guy and be able to teach him. Another guy who did love acoustic, so I've got an acoustic too, and he loved folk music. So it's like a lot of finger picking and different styles. I'm like, right, I've got to pick up some skills for this now, or just brush up on the ones that I had. So the reason I mentioned this was one, I enjoyed doing it, and I was quite strong with the playing and the teaching, but I didn't know a lot of other things to do with guitars and the music industry and things. So I I had a near miss with almost trying to set up my own guitar store, an independent one, just myself. I said, oh, I could teach, I can try and sell them. I know how they. I'd never built one. I wasn't great with repairs. There's all these things that I was lacking. I had the passion for it, but I was like, oh, I don't know how the industry works. I don't know that bands in my area might want to use rooms as rehearsal rooms or as a recording studio. I don't know how recording works. So it's the more I delved into the business plan of this, I realized I'm lacking in so many areas. I just have the passion for a couple of strings to that bow, but I was missing all this kind of really important stuff. I'd never worked in a guitar store to try and sell them. I don't know what being a salesperson in that space looked like. I was just some young enthusiastic guy who's like, well, I can teach in the quiet times. I can tune them up and do repairs and figure that out. I didn't know enough at the time, so it was a lucky escape. I didn't do it, but again, it was like as you say, knowing your strengths and what you're passionate about, and maybe trying to find the right mix of that.
Yeah, totally. Well, sweet man, we're about at time. I do at the end of every episode, right? We have our after hours happy hour segment of the show. I think this is super cool. What you're talking about here with music. So I think it's a perfect transition. So I by no means have really any instrument skill whatsoever. Like when I was really little, I started taking piano lessons for I don't know, maybe 6 months. I'm sure I was terrible. Um, and eventually I was just like, nah, I'd rather play sports. So I
Yeah,
dropped the hobby and focused more on that. But now that I've gotten older, I'm like, man, playing an instrument would be pretty cool. And I not to I guess change the topic, but I've recently gotten into some more like audio mixing and stuff. Actually, for my my local church where I was last before I moved, I would mix the production of the worship music and the microphones and the EQ and everything, and that was a ton of
amazing.
fun.
That's
Something I had
awesome.
never done before, but just
Yeah,
like picked it up and learned it, and I really enjoy music, but I can't sing and I cannot play an instrument. But hey, I know where I'm supposed to be. I know my place. All right.
yeah, that's it.
And different
We
things.
can't be great at
What
everything, right?
exactly. But I will say I always said like okay, if I played an instrument, I would love to play the drums, but I don't know, the electric guitar has really grown on me. I'm like, man, that would be so like something just like shredding on an electric guitar would be so cool.
It is the coolest, man.
So
Yeah, definitely.
especially
I'd
with like
highly
rock
recommend
music
it.
and stuff.
Oh
Go ahead.
yeah, there's so much you can do, and like, I'd highly recommend. And I think when I was getting into it, say when I was really young, like late 80s, early 90s, and then you've got all those kind of like shred metal,
Yeah.
bands and things where they're just doing, taking things to a different level, the Van Halen type things. And so that was like a bit of a heyday for pushing the envelope of what you could do with those instruments.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can take it as far as you want to take it, and I love all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think that's so fun too. And just, yeah, having like a hobby that's yours, that's something that I haven't really felt like I've had time for in a long time, except for recently. Like being able to have a hobby that's like, I mean, just because I've been so focused on like growing the Citizen Developer channel and the Power Talks podcast and whatever, that has become my hobby. But it's like over the past I don't know 6 weeks or so I've been able to start to have a hobby that's my own that I'm not don't really
Mm.
share or whatever. So I agree, man. Keith, thank you so much for being here. I always say this, if people were listening to the conversation and were positively impacted and wanted to get in contact with you in some way, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, thanks, Griffin. Yeah, always a pleasure catching up with you, my friend. It's been awesome. But yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, please do. Always happy to help. My name's Keith Atherton. Just search for me on LinkedIn. I'm probably most active there. And yeah, let's connect.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll be sure to have a link to that in the description. I'll also, because we were talking about Atomic Habits, I'll have a link to that book as well. I forgot to mention that earlier. I'll have a link to that book if anybody's still listening and wants to pick that up. I can highly recommend as well.
Brilliant.
So sweet. Well, thank you. Thanks, Keith, for being here. And thank you to you for sticking to the end of the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel and Power Talks podcast, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.